Well, hello, welcome back. We are working on our 1/43rd scale Mini Cooper from starter kits, and this is our goal. A couple little things I wanted to point out real fast. First of all, look at all of those lights on the front there. I totally didn't even recognize that this guy's going to need all those little lights out front. Because when I was going through the parts, I was like, what's with all these extra lenses? Well, it turns out it's for those lights. So there's that. And then also, if you can see behind the lights, yeah, because they're bright, if you can see behind the lights, the grill looks a little strange, right? Well, I thought perhaps maybe that was an artistic choice by the builder, that they had done something a little different with the grill, or maybe this might be a different mold for the kit that we actually have here in our hands. And it turns out that is incorrect. There is actually something going on with that grill there. Can you see it? I'm trying to get the light on there good. It even has little dimples for where the snaps would be. That's actually a grill cover. It's almost like a tonneau cover for the grill, and that's to help block off a lot of the openings so that the car can run warmer. So this was obviously running in the cold climate. Winter rally. I think winter rallies are awesome, so I'm excited about that aspect. And we do have 2 of the 7, if we count the original lights, they're supposed to be on the car. 2 of the 7 auxiliary lights actually molded onto the car, so that's pretty cool. We just have to figure out where the others have to go. Looks like there's some little dimplage going on there. We might have to drill some holes. I'm not sure. I'm a little leery about drilling into resin. I'm always worried about that cracking or splitting. So we'll just take our time and then do the old pilot hole trick, and then go up to the size we need. So this is looking really good. We did a little bit of cleanup around the window openings. There's just a teensy bit of flash around there, and then around the wheel arches. Got that all cleaned up. We have the body on the chassis just as a mock-up. The wheels and tires are fitting phenomenally. Phenomenally. That's a lot of syllables. But I'm liking how it's looking. I kind of like the steely look on this side. This is kind of racy looking, but it's looking really, really good for a tiny little guy like this. And the resin is a very interesting feel to it. It's almost like I'm working on a bar of soap. Yeah, we did have a little bit of an issue with the axles because they're just steel rods. The steel rods were cut, the way they were cut, the ends kind of flared out, or so, I don't know, the rod was too large to actually go into the steel wheels, the turned metal wheels. So instead of trying to drill the wheels out larger and possibly screwing that up, I decided to just nix the metal axles, which were also bent, by the way. Maybe that happened when they're cutting the wire, I don't know. But we went with a piece of styrene tube that was just about the right diameter. We had to sand down the ends a little bit so that would fit in the wheels. And then we did have to drill out in the front and rear for the axle path because those were flashed over. Wasn't such a big deal in the front, but the back, there was this big lump right here we had to drill through. But our path was true, so, I mean, it looks good. Liking how it's looking. And then we cut the wheel inserts off of the lugs, and then had to do a little bit of fine sanding around the diameter? Yeah. To just clean up a little bit of wonkiness so that it would actually fit inside the wheel better. And then interior wise, probably going to go with a gray interior. A lot of these cars that I've seen have like a light gray interior type of thing because it was nothing fancy at all. But yeah, this is looking really good. It's very buggy looking, isn't it? Very dune buggy looking. I like that. Dashboard wise, there was a little bit of a pour lug on the bottom there. We cut that off. Unfortunately, I didn't cut it very straight, but we'll fix that in post. And then a problem occurred. There was a lug on this side here which I didn't recognize, so I cut it off, and then I realized, wait a second, that was the steering wheel mount. Wait a second, steering wheel mount's on the wrong side. And then the next thought process was, wait a second, maybe this wasn't a UK issue vehicle. Maybe this was a European issue vehicle, so it had the driver's side on the left side. Okay, I better go do a little bit of research and find out which side that steering wheel is supposed to be on. I'd already glued on a little piece of styrene tube here to accept the steering wheel, which is quite large by the standards of the kit. So, I mean, it's not going to be 100% accurate, but we're doing our best. So the deal is figure out which side the driver's side is supposed to be on for this particular car, and then go from there, because again, we do have the pedals on the left side. We don't know if they're supposed to be on that side or the right side. And then last but not least, the windows. Now, I was mentioning before that we did a little bit of cleanup around the window openings because we had some flash. And then I was looking at these window openings going, man, that's a lot of flash. That's really thick around there. And before I started cutting on that, I was like, wait a second, I better double check this. So my biggest fear was that we'd have to cut the windows out of this and actually apply them to the car. Well, guess what? That's what we're going to have to do, because this doesn't fit in there. It looks like it was made from the outside. And I was like, why would it be made from the out? Oh no, this is actually the channel the window was supposed to sit in. So I'm thankful that I took a step back, took a close look at what we had going on here, and realized that the windows are going to apply from the outside of the car body rather than the inside, which could make gluing them a little bit difficult as long as we get, we'll probably just use canopy glue because that's what that stuff's made for, right? Use some canopy glue on there, and then probably after everything's said and done, go back and paint around to make sure that whatever glue is seen through the window piece is kind of hidden. And I'm thinking that is why the model on the artwork here actually has blacked out windows, because there was an issue with the gluing of the windows, so they wanted to hide the glue marks. That's just a guess on my part, but it would explain why the artwork actually has the blacked out windows. So we're going to do everything we can to make sure we have transparent windows and move on from there. But the casting of this is just awesome. I mean, it's really well done. I was talking to Lucas C about these because he's a big fan of these kits. And he's like, yeah, these guys were top notch back in the day. So that's good to hear. So I'm very happy about that. So that's where we're at right now. And then we're going to do a little bit more on this guy and then see if we can get him prepped for paint, because we will have to do a lot of paint work on here. Just, hand painting, I think. Masking a lot of this stuff in small scale is going to be very difficult. And we're going to try and find the closest match we can to paint on hand to match a tartan red, which is what this guy would have been painted in. So we'll see what we can do. All right, we'll catch up with you a little bit later. All right, so after doing a little bit more research, we discovered that it is definitely a right-hand drive vehicle. So we've made the modifications for that. Let me show you that real quick. We cut the pedals off and moved them over to the side there. It'll work. It'll work. So move the pedals over to the side, and then that's basically it for just did some sanding on the seats. But most of the tinkering we've been doing is actually to the body of the car. So we took one of the little yellowish resin dots, and we drilled a hole in the roof for where the dimple was, so we could put the searchlight on the top there, and then drilled a hole in the dot so that we could put a piece of styrene rod. And I kind of like it at an angle. A lot of the photos I see it's at an angle and kind of tipped back a little bit, so I do like that. And then in the center, we did drill a hole to put the center light in there. And then we were right. These little dimples that are down here, right above the bumper, are actually for the little lollipop lights. And I don't know if I can do this on camera, but they're going to line up sort of like that. Like that there. So we'll get the full spread of lights across the front of this little guy. So I'm really happy with how that's going. I'm trying to keep all of my lenses in this little cup here so I can keep track of them. But yeah, I'm liking how that's looking. Yeah, you can see that the hole that we drilled in the body really well. But once we back that with some silver paint, we should hide that really well. Especially if here's a little top tip. If you are doing this type of thing, it's just going to come out. There we go. If you're doing this type of thing, don't forget to put a little silver dot at the very end of the post. If you can see that there, put a little silver dot at the end of the post. That way it won't have a dark spot in the center, and it will help mask the fact that it's a posted piece of plastic in there. So, a little bit of a help there. And I'm more confident with how we have our steering wheel mounted for the right side. Yeah, that's a little clunky, but it'll do. It'll do. So now the next thing, I think, if we have everything pretty much under control with all the lights and stuff, is go ahead and start figuring out how to clean this, and then getting it ready for primer, and then all the masking we got to do for the white roof and then the red body. So and then I'm just going to do a gray interior, like a very light gray, like a neutral gray, or even lighter, maybe a sky gray interior. I'm not sure what the car's supposed to have inside for interior stuff. I know that there's a lot of metal inside of these guys, interior-wise, exposed metal, but I'm not too worried about that. We'll just go with a color, and who knows, maybe the primer we use will be good enough for the color for the interior. So there's that. Well, I might do a different color on the seats just to make it a little more visual interesting. But yeah, there we go. All right, so we'll come back when we have more. We are now moved on to Sunday. We went to the Model Car Mafia meeting last night and showed this to a couple of our friends, Lucas E. and our friend Mark. And Mark was like somebody who's actually loves these starter kits and has built tons of them, and actually had a starter kit at the meeting last night, so hopefully you see it in the video. It's the Texaco Thunderbird that was on the table. So we talked to him about these starter kits and stuff, and one really important tip that he gave us was that even though these kits come with a screw to put in the base there to screw it together, sometimes the screw is a little too large and will end up splitting the chassis or the post that that you're screwing into, which could lead to splitting the body at some point. So especially if the screw decides it wants to rust or something like that and swell. So that was a very important tip for us. We're going to probably just go ahead and epoxy this guy together. Do a gentle clamp, if there's such a thing, and then epoxy it together. So that's our new plan of attack. Now you'll notice that we have a window installed, because we did go through and cut out all the little window pieces, and we did a really good job. I mean, I was like, dang, the talent was flowing yesterday. So we have all the windows cut out, and so everything's saved in our jar here, because we went to the meeting and we wanted to take some pieces to show. But it was really good because we talked to our friend Lucas E., and he talked about how this resin actually has, like, I'm not 100% clear on how this is actually functional, but it does have like a diesel oil in the resin. So he's like, when you clean this, and just some isopropyl alcohol to just clean it, once it's dry, prime it. And then he's like, don't clean it and set it down for several days, whatever, because the oil will start to leach back to the surface again. You notice that we do have primer on the base. I did want to test some Tamiya, regular rattle can Tamiya primer. It did an amazing job. You can see back here in the wheel arch that it looks a little mottled, like maybe it wanted to fisheye. I'm wondering if that's because there was some heavy mold release here that I neglected to get off. I did not clean this. I just sprayed it just to see what would happen, and it doesn't scratch off. So that's great. It doesn't rub off or anything like that. So I'm really confident with that, because we wanted to just use a simple primer on this and then move on to some color. So yeah, so that's it for now. We're going to go ahead and clean this guy up and then see if we can't give him a shot of primer post haste, and then move on from there. But I got to get that window out. But you see how well that fits in there? Oh my goodness. Yeah, I just followed the lines that were on the bubble that we had, the window bubble. Worked a treat. So there we go. So that's it for that. I don't think I did anything else magical on this kit, other than just talk to some folks, prime this up, and then figure out how to clean this. So there we go. All right, so we'll get back to you when we have a teensy bit more to talk about. Well, we are back with another little update. It has been 24 hours because now we are on Monday. And we got a thin, extremely thin coat of white primer on this little dude. Why white primer? Because we want to do the top white. So we're just going to go with that, mask that off. And then when I hit it with a transparent, gloss coat. Hopefully that'll just do the thing I hope it does. But we had to slow it down because we had a major issue along the side here. Right up here, we'll just put a picture of what we were dealing with. Some super bad fish eyeing, and I wasn't sure if it was because I had been handling this and then getting some thumbprints on there or whatever, but it was only on the one side. So I really think it was maybe some mold release I hadn't got off there very, very well. I did give this a couple swabs with rubbing alcohol, 90% rubbing alcohol. I thought I had it cleaned off really, really well, but when I went back to do the sanding to try and take down the primer, I was noticing that you could see that there was like wet spots on there. So we sanded it down below those spots, and it was just like they were shiny, not really wet, but they were shiny. So I sanded them beyond those spots, and we did a quick, very light spray of primer. I didn't want to build it up too much because the detail on this is kind of fine. So I did a quick spray on there, and you can see in the wheel well, that's what it was looking like. You know, it was all like, it looked like milk in the bottom of the cereal bowl. So yeah, so did this quick spray over there, and it looks like it's doing okay. I do have a couple little fuzzies here and there because I got a little anxious and sprayed it before I hit it with my Tamiya anti-dust brush. And then so I thought, oh, stop right there. And then like the dad in Christmas Story, nobody move. So yeah, we just stopped right there, and then we're going to give this a quick little light sand, get some of the dust bunnies off of it, and then go back out and give it another light coat of primer after doing the dust brush. But yeah, and the gray primer we see here, that's overspray from spraying the inside of the car, because I wanted to do gray on the inside. So that's that. But gosh, it's such a cute little dude, right? All right, cool. So we will check back with you after we do a little bit more spraying on this guy, and we'll talk to you then. So after several light coats of white primer from Tamiya, we have a good looking little dude. Look at this guy. So much better. I might do uno más, one more pass of white primer. Not really worried about the headlight buckets. We're just going to hit that with a silver marker anyways. But we are a little thin in some of the areas here in the front. It's kind of hard to get stuff down in there with a rattle can. I'm sure with an airbrush I would have been able to get down in there better, but this was my choice of attack. So yeah, so I probably do one more pass of the white primer and then let this sit overnight, and then come back and do the masking for the roof, and then put down the red layers. Now I did come up with the idea, because the decals are a little on the questionable side, I did come up with the idea of making a template off of that 37 placard there, and then masking that on the doors and leaving that white, and while we spray the red on there. I'm not 100% sure how that's going to go. Usually if you don't burnish down the tape well enough, you end up with a little bit of bleed through, and especially if your paint's a little too thin. Also, sometimes masking tape seems like it'll wick up paint sometimes, you know. But then again, if that doesn't work out well, then I'll figure out something else to do with decals. But that's definitely something I want to try, because if it doesn't work out, I can just do a light sand on the body and then spray the whole side of the car. And when I say spray the whole side of the car, I mean like that. Spray the whole side of the car and just blend that in. But yeah, I was just a little concerned about how bad those decals are wrinkled. I thought I could just cut out the 37 out of the center of the decal and just apply that in the center of the white square or rectangle, and then be done with it. And the white primer on the roof looks so good that I think we'll just go ahead and hit that with the clear when it comes time, and you know, we'll be done. So we're very close, but we're going to go ahead and end this video here so we can upload that, do all the editing and all that jazz, so you guys can take a look at what we're doing and share our thoughts. All right, guys, we'll catch you in the next one. I'm going to set this guy aside and probably get on with the dart bag and see if I can't do any more work on that. We'll talk to you a little bit later on. Thanks for tuning in and sticking with us for a long format video. Appreciate that very much. Bye now.